Alrighty, and we're back. Had a few technical difficulties there. So hopefully this works out. I'm gonna scoot this a little bit closer. All right, so guys, tonight we're talking about protein. Last week we threw out a kind of a Facebook Q&A, post about if we wanted to do it or not, and then we got to thinking about or Q&A on nutrition. And we got to thinking about, that's kind of all encompassing. Alan, what's up, man? And I thought we could be a little bit more specific and kind of dive into little bits and pieces to make it more, kind of give it topics to make it more relevant and keep them a little bit shorter. I think we can kind of go down some rabbit holes on certain things. So tonight is on protein. Got my notes here. You have to apologize if I just had to pound my dinner. So as we're going along with this, feel free to ask questions if you have any that come up. But protein, what it is, why it's important, and things like that. If I keep looking down, I'm looking at my notes. So kind of keep myself on track here. So if you've ever heard the statement that protein is king, it is absolutely correct in my opinion. The basis of your diet should always start with adequate amounts of protein, whether you're a meat eater or a vegetarian or a vegan, which we'll go down that road in a few minutes about the differences in that. But one thing is for sure, there's lots of studies and science proven, especially in weight loss and adding muscle, that adequate protein diets are over or above adequate amounts of protein diets aid in weight loss and adding muscle. What is adequate amount? I think the recommended daily allowance is it's pretty low. I wouldn't go off of that. I think it's pretty laughable. But in the fitness world, the general guideline is somewhere between 1 gram per pound of body weight all the way up to 3 grams, depending on your intensity of your training, your goals, things like that. I think in general, 1 to 1.5 to close to 2 is probably your best bet. If you tend to be more on the weight loss side and kind of doing that, going down a kind of a diet restricted calorie thing, probably want to get into the 1.5 to maybe even 2 grams per pound of body weight. The other thing I don't want to do today, guys, is get too sciency on this stuff. So I'm going to try to make it as basic as possible. So by saying grams and things like that, unless you know how to count grams, that really means nothing to you. So I'll give you a few kind of tips and tidbits on how to make sure you're at least eating enough through the day without actually having to measure it out. So I think in terms of getting in protein throughout the day, whole food is always your best bet. So what is whole food? That's going to be beef, chicken, fish, wild game. On the vegetarian side, you have beans, legumes, soy, which I'm not going to push soy too much. So if you're a vegetarian and you eat a lot of soy, great. But there's a whole host of other things. I'm not too overly familiar with the vegetarian side, and I do have some insight into it, but not a whole lot. So whole foods first, and then if you're finding out that you may not be getting enough throughout the day, we want to maybe add in some supplementation of it. That's where your powdered proteins come in really handy, whether you drink them or bake them into something, mix them into oatmeal, something like that. I think for the most part, coming from what we've seen is when people come in and haven't been eating a whole lot of protein and we try to get them up to levels that we like, it's tough because they've never eaten that much before. So adding in a good kind of protein supplement for the day once or twice may be a good option for you. And it's still considered a kind of a whole food. It's a complete protein, so you're not really losing much other than, shakes tend to be liquefied. They go through you a little bit quicker. Your body doesn't have to break them down as much. So you may get hungrier faster. On the note of powdered protein, the reason it's convenient is it makes it easier throughout the day. Let's say you're eating 3 meals and you do like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you have work that takes up the rest of the day. With powdered protein, you can just throw it into a shake or something, carry it around on you. It's pretty portable. So that's some other pluses with it if you're finding it hard to get in throughout the day. We can get in a little bit about the structure of it and the importance, and this is going to lean into kind of the vegetarian talk a little bit. But while let's say we're in a kind of weight loss kind of goal with protein, or excuse me, in our current goals, and we're going to eat more protein. The advantage to this, I guess, is it's more filling. Your body requires more energy to break it down, and that leads to you maybe not eating so much refined sugar or refined carbohydrates and things like that. If you have a nice big plate of protein, vegetables, and maybe a little bit of carb, you may not go for that dessert. And again, let's touch on the energy base. There's a thing called the thermic effect of food. We're going down that sciency thing a little bit, but compared to carbohydrates and fats, it's shown that protein is digested a little bit differently, and it takes your body a lot more energy to actually break it down and utilize it. So you're winning there, right? It makes it a little bit more common sense. Just, hey, let's throw in a little bit more here, and our body will use more energy. So we're in effect burning more calories or energy to eat that protein. So how much to eat throughout the day, I think, is kind of the next part of this. When we're talking with some of our nutrition folks, or the folks that I've worked out with in the past with sizing and portions, it's a good idea. So you're not having to measure stuff. A good rule to use, or kind of formula, is your palm. All right. So if you were to eat, let's say, guys, you eat 5 to 6, ladies, you eat 4 to 5 meals a day with a palm size of protein, that's going to be plenty of protein for you throughout the day. About the same, thickness as well. So let's say your busy schedule, you have breakfast, lunch, dinner. Those are your main meals. Hey, Ron, what's up, buddy? Those are your main meals. And now you're like, well, we got to eat 5 of them. So let's adjust this a little bit. We can double up, maybe. Now you're having like 2 chicken breasts the size of your hand, which, is definitely filling, may not be the best. And then you fill those gaps with like a protein shake, or maybe like just a quick snack of something similar, some jerky or something like that. Mary asked, what is the baseline amount of protein that less fitness-focused folks should intake, or those who don't really get exercise? It's a great question. I think at a bare minimum would be about 0.7 grams per pound of body weight, which for someone like your mom, man, she probably weighs what, like 110 soaking wet? It'd be like 77 grams a day. So to break that down for you, let's say, so Mary's mom is an elderly lady, and she's very petite and small. And as you get older, it's okay to kind of eat a little bit more. I mean, this protein helps you build muscle, and it, you know, just by eating it alone, like your body uses it and puts it into your muscle, and it has a long process to break it down for energy. So it kind of goes to muscle first, and you don't necessarily need to be in the gym hitting curls and bench to utilize its advantages. So somebody like that with, let's say, at a minimum 75 grams of protein a day would be like if you did 5 meals with 15 grams of protein each, that's like 2 ounces of chicken breast at each meal, 5 times a day. So 3 meals a day, she could get away with like 4 to 5 ounces of protein. Pretty simple. Great question. So I think that leads us a little bit into, let's talk about some vegetarian stuff and the importance of getting in all the quality that you can if you're a vegetarian, and how it relates to us meat eaters. So protein is composed of 22 amino acids, 9 of which are essential amino acids, meaning we need them to live. Our body can't make them, so we have to get them from food. The problem with plants is that they are what's considered an incomplete protein, but it's not necessarily an incomplete protein. I think that's the wrong verbiage. It's a protein that is missing one of the essential amino acids. So it's good as a vegetarian to start bouncing around and combining some of those foods that are missing that one amino acid, or make sure you're supplementing with some amino acids in your diet, maybe to help get that intake up to where it needs to be. I think that's probably the biggest downfall in a vegetarian diet, is not getting all the advantages that you can get as a meat eater. And so the beauty of meat is they do have all those 9 essential amino acids. Some, like beef, will have a little bit more of one or the other versus chicken and fish and so on, but you're still getting a good supply of it. And on the vegetarian side of things, there's plenty of substances that have almost all of the amino acids you're looking for. So just know that if you're diving down that road, I know that we have a few vegetarians in the gym. There's nothing, I'm not arguing against it or for it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's been some very successful vegetarian athletes in the past. Just know that your requirements on amino acids may be a little bit different. Kids crying in there, classic. So the good news about the amino acid pool, which we're going to do another video on amino acids, is that the more you have available to you, the more energy that you'll be able to transfer into or utilize in that respect. So you have, the bigger pool of amino acids you have, the more you can help repair muscle, meaning more protein you eat, the more repaired muscle that you can do, especially after hard workouts and things like that. So, it's pretty basic knowledge. And again, I didn't want to get too deep into this without getting sciencey. I don't want to lose people. I'm not a scientist myself, so I want to keep it basic anyway. But just know that whether you're losing weight, whether you're trying to gain muscle, I would like to see you eating at least 5 good servings of protein a day. And that should be your main focus. Forget carbohydrates right now, forget vegetables and all that. Build around the protein, then you can start worrying about the other stuff. Our next our next live one next week series is going to be on, I think we're going to do carbs and jump into that one, the benefits of energy and why they're beneficial around workouts and things like that. So I hope this was helpful. I know it was short. If you have any other questions, you can throw them down in the comment before we get off here. If you watch this and you have any questions, we'll keep track of it as we go along, and happy to answer. If you want to send them to, oh, Kirby, I didn't see your question in there. I had to scroll down. So Kirby says, so do I do current body weight or where I want to be, my ideal weight? So the bigger you are, the more requirement your body has on energy in general and protein. I would still say, yeah, because more is not going to be detrimental unless you're eating like, this is mainly applying to like lean cuts and things like that. So if you're eating, let's say 300 grams of protein in chicken breast for a day, and your ideal weight is 250 just for round numbers, that extra 50 grams isn't going to necessarily be detrimental to your progress. So yes and no. I think it's really easy. It's probably better to overeat it than it is to undereat it, which you need a good supply coming in all the time. So that's a great question. So cool. If anybody has any other questions, go ahead and throw them out there. If not, again, we're talking about carbs next week. And again, if you have any other questions on this, love to talk to you. If you want to send them to me personally, brandon@grapevine-crossfit.com. Be happy to answer them and help you out any way that I can. Thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next week. And let's crush this week and finish it out strong. See y'all later.